All right, hi everybody. Today we're going to be looking at how to figure out percents, parts, and wholes, very much like we did yesterday using proportions, but today working with equations. So we're going to start with a quick exercise like you see in front of you, where we're going to be changing percents to decimals to fractions. So let's together take a look at the first example. 30% is equal to the decimal 0.30. We know that percent is always a number based out of 100. So 30 out of 100 becomes 30 hundredths. We also know that to change a percent into a decimal, you simply take the decimal point and you slide it over 2 spaces to the left to go from a percent to a decimal. To go from a decimal to a percent, we do the exact opposite. We slide it 2 spaces to the right. So 30 hundredths as a fraction can be written as 30 hundredths, 30 over 100, which we always want to then reduce to lowest terms to 3 tenths. What I'd like for you guys to do next is to pause the video, take a moment to copy and complete this table here. So press pause, and when you're ready, you may go on. Take a moment now to check your answers. Hopefully you took the time to fill in the blanks. See if you can figure out where all of the items of the table came in and where all those values came from. Hit pause if you need a little bit of extra time. What if I start you with a fraction like 1/5? How do I change a fraction to a decimal? Well, one way I could do that is to simply divide the numerator by the denominator. But if the denominator happens to be a value that is a factor of 100, there are much easier ways to do it. I know that 5 goes into 100 20 times. All I need to do to figure out that numerator is to multiply by 20, which becomes 20 hundredths, 0.20, or 2 tenths, 0.2. And my percent, remember we talked about to go from a decimal to a percent, slide that decimal over 2 spaces to the right to give us 20%. All right, hit pause, and what I'd like you to do is go ahead, copy and complete this table into your Min. When you're ready, you can go on and check your answers on the next screen for me. Go ahead, check your answers, hit pause if you need to so that you can read carefully. Tomorrow when I come back, I will be checking your work. So you want to make sure that you have all of this in your Min. Hit pause if you need to. All right, where we're going with this is we're going to now look at how to solve percent problems by translating the words into an equation. We did this yesterday with percents and proportions, where our is over of equals percent over 100. We're going to do the same idea. So we have sort of a little key that we're going to use to help us to identify what to translate, literally word for word, into our equation. So we know when it's our unknown, like our what, we know that that's always going to be our x or whatever variable. Is in math always stands for equals. 85%, whenever we see our percent, we are going to write that percent as a decimal. We should all know that of in math means multiply, and then we just bring our numbers down. So here's what we've got. We've got what is 85% of 320. And what you see is literally word for word. What is 0.85 times 320? To solve for x, all we need to do is 320 times 0.85 to give us our answer. Wow. 320 times 0.85. You guys should be doing the same. Shouldn't be doing all the work for you, right? And we're left with x equals 272. We always want to go back when we finish and think, does our answer make sense? What is 85% of 320? Does it make sense that 272 is 85% of 320? It does make sense. We should do that at the end of every single problem. Does our answer make sense? 272, and it does. Let's try two more. All right, we're gonna do the same thing here together. Let's start, we'll use a highlighter for this. Here's what I've got. What percent of 170 is, that didn't show up, let's try that again, is 68. So we're going to do our word for word translation. What percent is our x? Of is times, 170 is 170, is equals 68. All right, we're going to simplify. X times 170 we're going to write as 170x is equal to 68. To get the x by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 170. You can either reduce this or set it up as a division problem, long division. Either way you do it, you're going to end up with x equals 0.4. We're not quite done. Let's look back to the question. The question is asking us what percent? Well, let's think about what we did at the very beginning of today's lesson. We changed decimals and fractions into percent. Since I'm asked for what percent, I now need to change this into a percent. So to change 0.4 into a percent, we know we're going to take that decimal point, slide it over 2 spaces, and my answer is 40%. 0.4 is 40%. I only use the percent sign when I'm asked the question, what percent? Just like we talked about in yesterday's lesson with percents and proportions. All right, we'll do one more together, and then you guys can try some work from the textbook. Same idea. We're going to start with our symbol. So I have 393 is 60%. I'm going to highlight that because we need to make a little change to that. Of, and let's see what color, orange. What number? All right, here is our literal word for word translation. 393 is 393 is equal. 60% becomes a decimal. Of means times. And what number is x? When I simplify this, here's what I've got. 393 is equal to 0.60. Come on, board. 0.60x. How do I get that x by itself? We know we're going to divide both sides by 0.60. Running out of room a little bit. And here's what we've got. X is equal to 655. No percent. Look at what the question is asking me. The question's saying of what number? It's just a number. 655 is just a number. All right? So, once again, we want to make sure that we understand which symbols to use. So when I see the word what, that's where I'm going to use my x. When I see the word is, that's where I'm going to use my equals. When I see the word of, that's where I'm going to use my multiplication sign, raised dot. And when I see a percent, I know that I'm going to rewrite it as a decimal. All right, guys, that's our lesson for today. Hope that it was enough to do what you need to do for homework tonight. All right, see ya.